What do you think? Let's do this guy before we forget. What do you think of Nick Fuentes? Like, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. I think
Can't imagine why. Can't imagine why.
yeah, I think he's one of the greatest commentators of our time. I'll listen to his
Oh,
show and
relax. Let's not go
no,
too
I think
far.
so.
Calm
I
down.
I think he'll provide a novel insight, and I typically I'll find myself changing my mind when I listen to him, or he'll point me in a direction I hadn't quite thought of before, and his analysis on foreign affairs is really good because oftentimes he'll touch on things that I hadn't read before, and I wouldn't have heard of had he not brought it up, and even like really niche issues about like characters within the online ride and how they might actually be subversives, like Bronze Age pervert, for example, or Curtis Yarvin. We would call that the Peter Thiel sphere. He's certainly. I think he's my favorite commentator. Honestly, right now. Uh, I love him. What about you though? What are your thoughts?
Well, so I've got really two key problems with Nick Fuentes, and as a general rule, I kind of like his commentary on a bunch of stuff, but he seems overly obsessed with well, you know who, and he so it's one thing for me. So like my position is that like listen, this country gets way too much money. We get very little in return. They they seem to have a much more like influential role in our policy than our other allies, and I don't like that. And I basically just want to nick them back down where our other allies are in terms of foreign policy, right? They don't get any. I don't want them to get special treatment. And Nick Fuentes basically acts like, well, they run the world, and I think that anyone who thinks that is suspect, right? Um, obviously for obvious reasons. And the other thing is that like he trolls a lot, and I hate trying to have conversations or debates or anything with somebody who's not genuine. So like in the few times I've seen him debate, there's moments where I can just tell the dude is trolling and he's just trying to have fun and make memes and go viral. But then like whenever you get him going, like I've seen him on like that Myron Gaines podcast with Destiny, when he's like genuinely debating people, like he knows his stuff, and he's. I just wish we got more of that. But there's also, the problem of he can't get platformed anywhere. So
Yeah, that is a problem. We'd probably see him on a lot more programs, but I think everyone is so afraid of getting their YouTube demonetized or destroyed, where they're just not willing to have him on to showcase his debate skills. I kind of like the trolling. I think it's funny, but I guess to each their own. I can see why you might not want that. I remember the last debate I watched that he did was with this Dean Withers character, and
I did see that too.
like at first, like you could okay from the get go you can tell that Nick is far more intelligent and smarter than Dean, but from the start, Nick was trying to play along and debate him and debate him where he is and give points, but Dean Withers is a bit of a sophist, I would say. He was resorting to the like debate me bro tactics where he was getting all loud and talking really fast and doing like you know basically, I don't know if you could call them non sequiturs where things don't quite follow. I think Nick was getting exhausted with it after a while, and so he did resort to trolling. And so, yeah, so if you're not a fan of that, I can see why that would be a big critique. But on the other hand, I think I don't know, I think it's just kind of funny. So I like it.
Yeah, no, I get you. Well, my thing is I've never. You said he offers great analysis. I've really never heard him offer anything insightful on anything other than Middle Eastern foreign policy. If you get where I'm going with that, um, I'm trying to not make this entire podcast about that. Which tends to happen a lot when you and I get going. You bring it up a lot. You know what I mean?
What the hell is Israel?
It's just something Rick starts talking about when he's blackout drunk.
What? In what way? Like, what's my point?
In a way that has no point? You just babble about defense budgets in the United Nations and then you pass out.
So, to be clear, I sometimes reference the geopolitical complexities of the topic, which is not the same as going to an anti-Semitic place.
I have no stake in this.
I don't either. I'm just saying, if anything, the drunk version of me is probably so supportive of Israel. He wants what's best for it, and...
Hey, man, I'm not touching this. You do you.
Okay, well, like
It is
Nick,
your top issue. It is your top issue. I get that.
Oh yeah,
It's not mine.
And like I'm like Nick in that way. I think they are the relevant factor, and I'll kind of leave it at that
Yeah.
since we're on YouTube. I don't want to.
No,
I
I
don't
get
want to
you.
blow up the channel. So
Yeah,
I'll
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I'll leave it at that. But
that's pretty much all I got on Nick. You got anyone else you're just dying to rant about?
well, I brought him up on a few instances.
Oh,
This
God,
is
here
my
we go.
second. This is my second favorite
I'm
commentator.
pouring a drink. I'm not ready for who this is.
Okay, I think you've seen some of this guy's content. Richard Spencer.
Yep. Fuck.
Well, he's really interesting. He's or at least he was back when it was a thing. He was like the de facto leader of the alt-right, but now he's like a Kamala and a Biden voter, and he offers like really and I every time he says, every time he opines on matters, I'll find what he says interesting. I might not agree, but like for example, he did not convince me to vote for Kamala Harris this past election, but I found his reasoning to be very intriguing, and I gave it a lot of thought. In fact, he helped push me towards not voting for either. Uh, Similar to how Nick pushed me to that point, and I almost, I was on the edge of voting for Kamala. It wasn't implausible. I could have voted for Kamala, but I just wasn't quite there, so I voted for neither. But yeah, Richard is a big influence on me. I find his takes on the way he interprets like Hollywood films, I find to be very interesting. Something that I won't go too far into it because also like we're on YouTube, but yeah, he has like some really interesting commentary that you can't really hear anywhere else, and his interpretations of the Bible are incredibly interesting as well. It's stuff I've truly never heard before. So, yeah, I find him and his co-host Mark Brahman just to be really intriguing individuals.
Yeah, and he's more of a culture guy for me, or a philosophy guy. Like anytime I hear him or see him on Twitter, or I guess X, anytime I see him there, he's pretty much commenting on something culturally that happened, or very little like political analysis that I see. Maybe he's got some deep, long Substack podcast about the big beautiful bill or whatever, but I just never see it. I think he's mostly like interpreting literature, such as like the Bible, or uh, he's writing a new book, right? That
Oh
sort
yeah.
of thing. Different mythologies I've seen him talk about, and anytime I hear him talk about a political discussion, he tends to just revert back to like philosophy and culture, and I hate those people. I just can't stand it. Um, I just now I do see why you could find him sometimes insightful, but it's just not my personal cup of tea. He's just not.
Yeah, it's certainly, yeah, I get it. It's certainly not for everyone. I think he's best consumed if you like subscribe to his Substack, and then like if you maybe n- at first I wouldn't even listen to his podcasts as much. I like where it's just him and like a bunch of people talking and discussing current events. I would listen to whenever they discuss like literature or film. They have these like really novel takes on like classic film, like Stanley Kubrick films, like Eyes Wide Shut, and or like the Bible, or they'll even all kinds of things. So I just think it's something so new and different. I'm just really impressed with them. Uh, but but I really only have good things to say. Nothing really crazy to say about him. I guess the only other person I would want to discuss is Richard Hanania. What do you think of that guy?
Oh God, and I'll have to lean on you a lot here because I haven't seen like a ton of him, but he just seems like just I don't know, something about him just seems repulsive, and that's not fair because I've never really even engaged with much of the dude's content, other than like I've seen him I think on Breaking Points with Crystal at some point, and I think I saw him on Destiny Show where he's basically like he's a he's a repentant Trump voter. Is that not correct? I'm thinking of the right guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Currently he's been going on an apology tour.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and that's disgusting. Like I get it, like he's I mean, but here's the thing, man. Like, if there's anything at this point that you didn't see coming, like, you shouldn't have voted. You know what I mean? Like, and his Twitter account is all over my feed, and it's always disgusting slop. It's just random, like, sexual undertones. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just super weird, man.
well, that's what makes him funny. That's what makes him
But
funny.
he's not trying to be funny, I don't think. Like, do you think so? Or you think it's 100% intentional?
Oh, it's certainly intent. It's
Well,
certainly
then that
intentional.
might actually be funny then. Then maybe I owe him an apology. But listen, I just like I've never in the two moments I saw him, I was like, not one time did I hear him say anything that I was like, oh, that's a good point. You know, like not. He was basically like, I didn't know this was gonna happen, so I shouldn't have voted for Trump, and it's like, disgusting. Like,
Yeah, it's interesting because like with other commentators we've talked about, he'll we kind of know their values, and so it's a little easier to predict what they're gonna do or not do. Like with Richard Spencer, who we just talked about, he's a huge Ukraine fan. So Kamala was the obvious choice for him. He wanted Ukraine to continue to receive lots of funding, and he wants to uh, close make our ties with NATO even tighter. So but Richard Hanania, he's all about the free market. He's like one of these ex-alt right libertarians. So he's the free market is what he's all about, and the Republicans in this case, he made the guess that there would be uh, less anti-free trade policies with Trump coming in, which is kind of funny, but yeah, he definitely picked wrong, I think.